Welcome back. Day 6 of the inquiry regarding land to the west of Worston Road, Ashbourne, Derbyshire. Can we start with the timetable? Have you got any updates for me?
We're content to proceed how you wish, ma'am. Just to let you know, Mr. Hayes is not here, but is on his way in and would be available from 11. I don't know what the appellant's position is on that.
Well, we've got Mr. Denning driving over from Cardiff
right.
this morning. We expect him here by 12:30 at the latest.
Okay.
But obviously, he might get here a bit sooner, but it's all going to be dependent on the traffic.
Okay. So, I mean, it seemed to me that if we, what I thought might happen, it won't be able to happen, which is to hear the Housing Land Supply in the morning, then go into the planning this afternoon. But I'd have thought anyway, there's clearly enough time to deal with one way or another Ms. Ford in chief and cross-examination, and there may well be enough time to deal with Mr. Bassett in chief as well today. I don't know.
So, Mr. McKellar.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, well, as I understand the position, there has been a slight change this morning that I haven't had a chance to update Mr. Hunter on because I only found out about it not that long ago. We also have now a response from Severn Trent Water. We sent it over to Mr. Robson, basically confirms there is no need for the temporary measures, and we will get that circulated obviously as soon as we can, and we'll get that in.
On Mr. McKellar's understood, I spoke to Mum yesterday where we stood on the drainage reason for refusal. I've taken instructions in light of Mr. Bowles' evidence on that and him being satisfied that it can be conditioned. We withdraw the objection on that basis. It's a conditions matter. I understood. I indicated that was likely to be the case to Miss Ogley, and asked whether Mr. Keller would be called in those circumstances. I understand, no, he won't. But I don't know whether there's any update to that either.
There's no update, as we said yesterday. If the council was basically going to take the position that was indicated last night, we're not going to call Mr. McKellar. But as I say, it may be that the conditions point, to, at least on foul drainage, may actually be completely resolved in any event because of the Severn Trent position. We did also think that it might be possible for Mr. McKellar and Mr. Ball to perhaps put their heads together this morning, if necessary, and come up with some conditions that they were both happy with. But that can be done outside of the inquiry room. So no, I'm not intending to take Mr. McKellar. I think his evidence can be taken as read. I'm not sure, though, whether it's a full withdrawal of the reason for refusal.
Yes, the reason for refusal is we had insufficient information. Mr. Bowles says we've now got sufficient information, so it is a full withdrawal of it on the understanding that it has to be addressed by conditions, whatever they may be.
Okay, so just to finish the point on drainage, would it be worth someone from your team, Ms. Ogley, just explaining the Severn Trent Water letter to me?
Of course, and I'm quite happy to call Mr. McKellar to do that.
Let's just do that.
Of course.
We've tailed it off, then we go away, look at conditions, and then we can, it sounds like then we'll start with hearing planning evidence, if that's okay. Yeah,
ma'am, the only difficulty with that, I'm not sure it's insuperable, is that one witness is going to give evidence before Housing Land Supply and one afterwards. I mean, I thought it's undesirable, but I'm not sure it's a showstopper in the sense, because it may, if necessary, I suppose I could ask my witness to come back and deal with anything.
Well, I was wondering actually, just in terms of the timing, because I know we've got to be done by 4, and obviously slightly late start this morning, understandably. But with Mr. Denning having to travel, know, we can't do too much about that. But I did wonder if what we do is we hear evidence in chief from, is it Ms. or Mrs? Sorry, do you prefer Mrs? It's Mrs. Ford this morning, and then we pause for the Housing Land Supply roundtable. If you need to recall Mrs. Ford at that point, then you can, before I cross-examine. I know it's a little bit stop-start, but it probably makes the best use of time and then gives you the full opportunity before I go near cross.
I'd be content with that one.
Or we still have to do a site visit. And in fact, I was thinking about this because it was expressed to me that it was, the preference was for an accompanied site visit. My preference in these matters, particularly once I've sat through a week of evidence, is just to go, having heard all the points, and go and tick off in my own mind everything that I want to look at. And sometimes it can be just, distracting when you're on a site visit and you've got to think about others, and people are saying stuff, and it can distract you. So my preference would be for unaccompanied, but I really just wanted to table that to see what feeling generally was about it.
I think, well, in principle, that's fine. I think we probably want to give you, you might want anyway, a list of places we think that you should go when you do it. But I think whether you're accompanied or not, I think we're content you make that decision. Can I just raise one thing in connection with that? Yesterday, the issue about the east of Wyreston Road, that sort of triangular wedge of development that came up with Mr. Carr. I should have said yesterday, but it had escaped my mind. I'd forgotten for the time being. But going through Mr. Bassett's evidence, he's actually got all of you may have seen it. He's got the plans for those areas in there, so it's in the evidence and planning as well. And therefore, it is something I'm going to ask Mr. Bassett about, just to give a heads up on that. But Ma'am, I think so. That's one of the areas I think you indicate you probably would want to look at anyway. But I think it will be sensible to do that.
Good. And the only other thing we could do to save us doing bitty planning evidence would be to do conditions.
Yeah.
And potentially just have a look through the obligation. I mean, how does that feel? Because how long have we got?
Consent with that. Yeah, we were going. So it's another solicitor at Freeds who's dealing with the 106. I don't know who's acting for the council.
It often is.
Yeah, but conditions we could.
We could quickly look through conditions, because I've been looking at them as we've been going through.
And also, Ma'am, if you wanted to at least give us any comments you have on the 106, then we can relay that.
Yeah.
Understand then the plan would be top and tail drainage with Mr. McKellar dealing with the latest correspondence, Severn Trent. And then we would possibly deal with something like conditions, and then go into housing land supply. Yeah.
So yes, so that's probably going to fill today, and then looking at this planning evidence on the Friday. The only thing is we could finish all the evidence, but it's going to be a late finish.
Well, could I? One option is if we. Well, I suppose it depends what time we start and how long housing land supply. But if we have time, I'd be happy to do evidence in chief of.
We've got to be out by 4 today. That's the only constraint.
I think it will be. I think I said 45 minutes. It will be. I don't think any more than that. It'll probably be about 45 minutes. But I don't. That's not going to. I'm not going to run over significantly. So we may be able to fit that in.
Okay.
And then that would mean I think we've got a better chance of finishing.
Actually, my retiring room isn't that small. I don't know if we could relocate there. Or would that be weird? It's a room that's not tiny, is my point.
Yeah, our room.
And members of the public.
The same for ours.
Okay.
But that wouldn't be a problem. We wouldn't be able to stream in there. That's the only.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've just got to work with what we've got to work with. So let's start and just finish drainage, and then we know that's ticked off. Shall we do that?
Yes, ma'am. I think if we can get the copy, that would be amazing. And obviously, Mr. Hunter, you might. Do you want a bit of time just to read it before it formally goes in?
I think it may be sensible for me to have a look at it. I think it's not a long letter.
No, it's not. It's an email. It's not long at all. I think it's a page.
How do you two feel about Friday? Are you local?
Well, I'm Leeds, ma'am. I think you're Manchester, aren't you, John?
I'm Manchester, but I'm going to Worcestershire after we finish.
Oh, of course, you're going for a 40th, aren't you?
So
today or Friday?
Friday.
So what time were you looking to finish on Friday?
I understood we wouldn't be finishing late because it's Friday and you have a long journey, and the convention is we finish early. Obviously my what I do afterwards can fit in with this, but it seems to me if we could finish early, it would be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, but the problem I have is if we don't finish planning this week,
Yeah.
we've all got to be here on Tuesday.
And I agree, it would be better to
that
say...
toss-up between, do we all take the hit Friday to save the Tuesday, or do we...
My preference
Go
in that
home
case would
Friday
be to take the hit on Friday, right? I mean, it's obviously to make, if you have a long journey as well, it's an extra
I've got
journey.
about 4 hours, so whichever way you cut it, unless I'm going at sort of after, 1.
So I think it would be better if we can't finish early on Friday, we carry on.
Yeah.
I think the priority, I agree with Mum, is finishing the planning evidence.
I think it would be neater if we could, wouldn't it,
Yeah.
really, for everybody?
It's not a problem for me. I hate traffic no matter what time, really. So the M1 from here to Leeds is basically 50 mile an hour the entire way.
It will also, I mean,
Friday's going to be a nightmare.
It just makes it a lot easier for closing as well, because there's...
It gives you more time to close.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off next week. Once we get home, the point is all we've got to do is closings, which I know is
it's hard
for
to know,
you
yeah.
to do, but
It's easier if we don't have to
travel.
prepare for cross-examination. Yeah.
Okay, but I might come back on the Tuesday anyway and do the site visit myself, and then I'll be here probably virtually, or I'll do it from home. Either or, I can think about that, depending on if we... Okay, so the general consensus is that we try to finish evidence this week.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably sensible in the circumstances. Okay, all right. Okay, do you want a few minutes just to organise yourselves on that?
Yes, please. Yeah, I think Mr. Robson's just gone to get the hard copy.
Okay.
Just to double check, if we do get the evidence finished, I'm just thinking about having people available for the 106 session in particular, but we can still do that, I think, on Wednesday, can't we, virtually?
Yeah.
Before closings.
I mean, it's usually just talking me through, what the obligations are, and it's heavier on the council in a way that, just
For the civil rights,
but I can read that ahead, and to be honest, we can deal with that, I think.
Yeah, no problem.
Virtually, yeah.
So if with a fair wind, we may be able to avoid anything else on Tuesday apart from...
Closing, which should be ideal, wouldn't it?
On Tuesday, it would be site visit.
Just site visit,
yeah.
So nothing really for many on Tuesday.
Yeah. And I think from our perspective, I don't think we have any issue with you doing it unaccompanied, Ma'am.
Yeah, I think once I've heard the evidence, it's usually easier just to...
Yeah, understood.
Put your thoughts together yourself on site, really.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right, when should we come back then?
Shall we just do 10 minutes to give Mr. Robson enough time, and then that gives Mr. Hunter time?
Okay. So 25
we'll
past?
Yeah, 25 past, yeah. I'll get Mr. McKellar set up.
We're not dealing with mix anymore, it's just housing land supply, isn't it?
It is, Ma'am, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I understand it, the evidence on mix is just taken as read, and there's no objection to that from the council. That reason for refusing was withdrawn early on, to be fair.
Okay. I'll just read it quick and then we'll start.
Yes, ma'am. Is this IQ 13, do we think? Excellent. Thank you. Got it. Found it. There you go. Lovely. Well, I'll just, Mr. McKellar, I'll just introduce you to the inquiry, please. You are Jason McKellar. You're a director of the Millward Partnership Limited, and you lead the Highways, Drainage and Flood Risk team for the company. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Your expertise is in flood risk and sustainable drainage design, including drainage feasibility, strategies and full detailed design. You've got over 31 years experience in the consulting engineering industry with over 21 years experience at senior engineer, associate director and director level, working for consulting engineers on flood risk and drainage projects throughout the UK. Your experience and roles held mean you're well versed in all flood risk and drainage matters pertaining to the appeal. You're a member of the Institute of Highway Engineers and you have a HNC in civil engineering. Is that all correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Just one point then, Mr. Millward, for us to... Mr. Millward. I keep wanting to do that. It's because of the Mr. McKellar. The number of times I've nearly done that in conferences, Mr. McKellar, as well. Of course, it has to happen when I'm on the record and the camera's rolling, doesn't it? We've just provided a document to the inquiry called IQ 13. It's correspondence from Severn Trent Water. Can you just talk us through the email, please, and explain how relevant or otherwise that is to the issue of foul drainage for the site?
Yeah, certainly. Severn Trent Water have come back. I'll just read the email out just for context. Basically, they've held an internal call to review the network performance and these site proposals, and they've confirmed that in principle they can accept the foul flows from this site to the 225 public combined sewer adjacent to Wyaston Road as requested. And having reviewed the modelling report and impact on the network with colleagues and in chief engineer, we have agreed that the use of any foul storage methods will not be required and that the flows can discharge unrestricted as long as by gravity. Formal acceptance will be via the formal Section 106 application when you are obtain planning permission and are closer to commencing construction. Essentially what this means is that Severn Trent Water have no objection to the outfall as designed. It doesn't need any temporary measures, so the backup measures that are proposed, Severn Trent Water have said basically they're not required. All it requires the developer to do is go through the formal Section 106 connection application, which is the formal application to Severn Trent to basically say, yes, they will give confirmation that you can make the physical connection to that manhole. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. McKellar. And just in terms of whether or not there is any outstanding issue about the capacity of the existing network to take the foul flows from the developments, in light of this email, where do we stand on that?
Where we stand now is that Severn Trent Water have confirmed that in their opinion there's no capacity issues with this development added onto the system. I'm
grateful. And in light of that, Mr. McKellar, what's your position on whether or not any condition would be necessary to be imposed on the permission? No condition as such in terms of temporary works or anything like that are required. I'm grateful. Thank you, Mr. McKellar.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to confirm then, so when we were talking about where it says the the use of any foul storage method is not required. That was the detail that came late, but we can just
Yes.
scrap that. It was about a storage tank, wasn't it?
That was
And
all to do with
biodiversity.
all to do with the temporary scenario, if
But
it was
that's
required.
off the table
but that's
now
off the
because
table
Severn
now,
Trent
Severn
say you
Trent.
don't need it.
Yeah.
Okay, and this formal section 106, that's something completely separate to the planning system that you
It
do
is, yeah, it's
later.
the Water Industries Act. It's just a formal application to get permission to physically connect to the adopted sewer.
So in terms of foul water, you're telling me we don't need a condition because we will just connect in and that's all separate now?
That's all separate because it's covered by the 106 with
Okay.
the Severn Trent.
Okay. Okay, but so as we established yesterday, groundwater flooding was negligible. So that's not a problem. And that's agreed between both parties. Yep.
Yeah.
We've now got to the point where foul sewage flooding is not at risk on either side because we've had confirmation from Severn Trent that the sewer can take it and they're happy as the water authority. So the only other thing was surface water, which we got to a point where that would be dealt with at detailed design stage. So presumably a condition would cover
The
that
condition
one.
relating to that, no problem, yeah.
Okay.
Just so you're aware, Mama, there is already, I think, a condition drafted for.
I suspect there is.
Yeah, for surface water, because obviously that's pretty run of the mill.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm sure that Mr. Ball and Mr. McKellar could still put their heads together on that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I would have thought that's easy. I'm just narrowing the vision for when we look at conditions and strip out anything that's not necessary and so on. Okay, lovely. Well, thank you very much. Did you have any questions at all, Mr. Hunter?
No, thank you, Mum.
All right, well, thank you for your very brief
Thank you, Mum.
appearance. That's what I'm talking about. Right. Shall we move on to conditions then, whilst we're here? Yep.
Have you sent it to me? Sorry.
I think now on that I'll be handing over predominantly to Mr. Bassett, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And sorry, Mrs. Ford as well will be most helpful. And I'm just thinking I might do the site visit after 4, so once we leave here today, and then that takes the pressure off next week as well. Completely deleted next week off of the timetable now. That's hilarious. When did that happen?
It's manifestation.
What's happened? Is it? So we don't have to do that, do we? Right, okay. Let me just sort myself out. Do you know what? I'll just have to put that right later. Okay.
Could you just ping me them again?
Right, yes, it's Thursday. Okay. So let's fill in, and then once we've done conditions, hopefully we'll be at a stage where we can start to think about housing land supply. We'll get around that. That's narrowed considerably from what I can see. There's fairly obvious points that we need to talk about on that. And then hopefully we'll start planning this afternoon and hopefully finish it up tomorrow. Okay, conditions then. Sorry, this session is always a little bit ad hoc as I work through conditions and very painful and boring for a lot of people. It doesn't indicate planning permission will be granted. Obviously, it's just a job that I have to do to make sure that in the event planning permission is granted, we've talked about potential conditions that may be imposed. Actually, I have had a look through. I think I indicated this earlier on that a lot seems to be there. Presumably, any sort of tidying up of implementation clauses and all that sort of stuff, you're happy to leave to me to do?
Yeah, no problem.
So obviously we've got all the plans in detail there, which is useful because that covers a lot of the plans that we've been talking about this week, such as our highway layouts and adoptable areas. That's an important one. So we've got all of those to approve. Shall I just work through them in order, or would you like the...
Fine, my only comment on the approved plans, and I think I did mention it almost at the start of the inquiry, is that they're updated to reflect the fact that the footpath is removed. So that is based on those plans, and they've all been updated for consistency purposes.
In the last draft conditions, yeah. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so let's just work through them then. It's probably the easiest thing. So condition 3 is a contamination condition, which is fairly standard. So in the event contamination is found, it must be reported in writing immediately. I just wondered if work should be ceased at that point on the condition if contamination is found.
I think the only comment we'd have on that, Marm, is that it would really, hopefully, have to relate to the whole of the site. It should only relate to the part of the site that it's found. So.
Okay. So how would I control that? So are you saying work should cease where it's found?
I think what we're saying is we've got no objection to that being included as part of the condition. But what we wouldn't want it to be is if it was found in for example, the far western part of the site, for it to have the whole site have to cease works.
So have you got any suggested wording that could do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wonder whether, as part of the request for it to be reported in writing, that there's a requirement to make a submission of what part of the site should cease.
Okay. Okay, well, I can take that away to consider a way of sort of ring fencing off the area where it's found. It's not the biggest site in the world. It's not going to be in phases, is it? No. But okay, I can consider that.
I mean, I'm happy to suggest some wording as well, if that would be helpful, Marm. We could go away and perhaps, it might be the case that there's several conditions that need that, and happy to offer some wording.
Okay.
Rather than sort of doing it on the immediate hoof, as it were.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, that might be helpful if something, if you're able. Any thoughts on that, Mrs. Ford, at all?
I think, going to get on the hoof. So I think if we could have some grapple, how we can enforce and control it, I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to, can we just borrow your microphone, Mr. Hunter? Mrs. Ford, that's it. So what would the council's position be? I mean, is this your standard contamination condition? Do you normally require works to cease, or...?
This is the normal standard.
That's what your normal approach is?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I can take that away then. Okay, condition 4 then, floor levels, that's an obvious one because of the undulation of the site and so on. So that all is all there. Shout out if you have any comments as I go through. Condition 5, so a construction environmental management plan, again fairly standard. No development shall commence. Yep. Yep, seems fine. And then condition 6, a landscape and biodiversity enhancement and management plan. So that's talking about the 14.33% biodiversity net gain.
Yes.
So that's securing that.
Yep. I think there is a little bit of crossover with the section 106, Marm, in that the management monitoring. I think we felt that was a thing that needed to be in the section 106. So there is a little bit of crossover there, but we think that's okay.
Okay. So what does the legal agreement do?
I think my recollection is that the legal agreement secures the 30 years.
So 30 years of management.
Yeah.
So condition 6 is more about creating it and achieving that level of net gain.
Yeah.
And then the legal agreement is about continuing it after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think given the offer to time, that part of it moves into the 106 rather than by condition.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Okay. Condition 7, budget mitigation strategy. Okay. Condition 8, lighting. Lighting strategy to be submitted and approved in writing. That one seems to be in order. Okay, condition 9 then. This looks like our surface water condition, yep.
Yeah, that's correct.
So no development to take place until detailed design and management and maintenance plan of surface water drainage submitted to and approved in writing, and then obviously just development shall be carried out in accordance with approved details. Are we happy with that condition? Does it need to do any more?
Just on that, Ma'am, I've been passed a note from Warren. The FRA, as it was submitted, did not address the runoff from the upper catchment area. And so what was the last bit then? And deal with the SCAR element as well from the watercourse. What outfalls from the watercourse. I didn't know whether or not there needed to be some form of wording crafted into that just to cover those points.
Yeah, so firstly you're saying the flood risk assessment it's not quite there in terms of, so we could just strike that out, that it doesn't have to be in accordance with that, it's that you submit it again and then you have to approve it. Would that make it simpler?
We're okay with that,
Probably, yes, yeah.
Does that deal with both points?
I think it does, yeah.
Yeah.
The points are covered in it, yeah.
Lovely. Okay, and then, so then condition 10, surface water runoff again, during construction phase. So, yeah, that all makes sense, yep. Any comments? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Carried out in accordance with approved details on that one. Okay, condition 11, a verification report by drainage engineer. Is this foul water?
Don't think so, no.
No,
I think
okay.
this is just verification of the surface water, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The drainage system has been constructed. So that's the... Hang on. So you think this is surface water again?
Yeah.
Demonstrate that the drainage system has been constructed. But then we've already said, as long as we carry out our design, management and maintenance of surface water as approved, does that do the same job? Or is it something to do with this verification report?
Yeah, I think they are separate entities, Ma'am, yeah.
It is effectively a confirmation that...
So I think 9's approval of the details, as I read it.
So the design of how you're going to manage surface water?
Exactly, approval of the detailed design of it. I think 10 relates to construction, and I think 11 is effectively a verification report.
Oh, no, hang on, because 10 is about during construction phase, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I said, Ma'am, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's slightly different, isn't it? Because 9 is about once it's built, how we're going to deal with surface water runoff. So this is our design.
Yeah.
Then 10 is, we're constructing, this is how we're going to deal with runoff.
Yeah.
And then 11 is...
My understanding is that 11 is verification of effectively that 9's worked, the condition 9's worked. Yeah, that it's been built in accordance with what's been approved under 9.
Okay. Verification. Oh, so possibly you don't need that implementation clause on 9 then. So no development takes place until you've agreed the design, and then 11 is before you occupy it, get a report that it's worked.
Yes, that's my understanding, yeah.
Okay. And are you content with that, Mr. Bowl? Yeah. Okay, condition 12, obviously access, parking and turning facilities, and that plan ties up to the one in the list.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And then we've got bicycle parking, condition 13, fine. Condition 14. No works or development shall take place above slab level until full details of all proposed street tree planting, root protection systems, future management and proposed times of planting have been submitted to and approved in writing to the local planning authority, and all tree planting shall be carried out in accordance with those details and at those times. Okay. So this is specifically about street tree planting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it forms part of a wider landscaping condition, or what were the particular reasons? Okay, as long as we keep that detail of the importance of street tree planting, okay. Do you have any objections there?
No, Mum, no.
Right, so condition 15, so this is about the site access, which is on that plan. I think that's the plan that shows visibility displays.
It is, Mum, and I think when we were doing the highway evidence, you raised the possibility of a couple of points on this. So I think the first point, if I remember correctly, was that we should perhaps amend the condition to show that the visibility, or to require that the visibility display be retained thereafter. I think that's what you're getting at. So
Yeah.
I've suggested the wording at the end of that condition, which is just simply the visibility display as shown on drawing, and I won't read out the whole drawing, shall be retained thereafter.
Yeah,
So that was the first point.
yeah. Any objections to that? No? Okay, good.
And then I think the second point that that you raised was whether or not we needed to secure the gateway features to the highway, whether that needed to be a condition or whether that could just be through the normal Section 278 process. I think we're fairly relaxed either way, but I have drafted a condition for a gateway feature. I can read it out if you want to see if you like the sound of it. So I've said, prior to the first occupation of any dwelling, details of a scheme for gateway features on the highway to the south of the approved site access shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. The approved gateway features shall be provided prior to the first occupation of any dwelling. Again, I could provide that for you if you want me to. Molly.
Okay, so in principle, how do you feel about that condition?
I think the expression gateway features is a contentious one. So it wasn't accepted by Mr. Carey that was sufficient. So any answer to that would be on the premise that Mr. Price's case is accepted, that would be the premise for accepting such a condition would be appropriate. So I think it depends whether you accept his evidence. I think in short, I think they might want to define gateway features as well. I don't know. It seems a bit of an uncertain term. But.
Yeah, you might all have to sit closer together.
I don't know if anybody else has any comments on that, but those were my thoughts.
So, yeah. Sorry, Mr. Hunter. So you were saying...
Well, Mr. Carey's evidence was that it was more than that, and it was going to be an extension of the speed limit, and it would require footway potentially improvements, carriageway widening.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't know whether that would be embraced within gateway features. I think it probably...
I think we need to know specifically what we were talking about.
Yeah.
There was talk of dragon's teeth and...
Yeah. It could. I mean, a more neutral expression might be a scheme for highways improvements.
That's very wide then, isn't it?
It is wider, but it's, yeah.
I mean, my recollection is that Mr. Carey accepted a condition could be used, and I think that we discussed with Mr. Price coming up with some wording for that, and then going back to try and agree that with Mr. Carey.
Maybe the way is that if there is a draft, because obviously it's helpful for Mr. Bassett to set out his thoughts, but it probably needs to be looked at by both highways consultants, and then if we come back to you on that condition.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're saying, Mum, is that this normally would be stuff dealt with under the 278, so we're not entirely convinced the condition is necessary, but I appreciate you raised it as a potential. When I was looking at drafting it, and I did speak to Mr. Price beforehand, I was sort of sat there going, right, okay, do I start to try and define what type of gateway features are there? But because it's ultimately going to be decided by the Highway Authority, I didn't really feel I was the best person to do that. Can speak to Mr. Price and the Council's Highway Witness by all means, but I think something along the lines that I've suggested I think probably works. I don't think we need to widen it to highway improvements. I think that's too imprecise.
Yeah, I think the position I'm in is, yes, I understand it's Section 278 and that that's in public interest, and that decision will be made if things are needed, like moving of speed limit signs and so on. If I think it's a particular issue, I can further add it to the permission. So I guess we just need to drill down on what it might be that you're willing to do. Because then that could be put into a condition. So if you were saying to me, we'd be willing to put the dragon's teeth in, that would be far easier. But the other thing we've got to think about as well with that condition is it's on land that's outside of the application site. So I think it needs to be a Grampian condition, So it would have to be no development shall commence and so on.
Yeah, well, can I just say on that as well? I'm happy for it to proceed on that basis, that it's essentially the appellant's suggested condition if you have a concern in this regard, rather than trying to cater for Mr. Carey's, because I think our position on that was actually you'd have a condition that's incompatible potentially with the current scheme. So I think we'd say you can't impose a condition if you agree with Mr. Carey. If you agree with Mr. Price, perhaps
agreed. I think, it's mostly for you guys to... I agree. Is there something we want to offer? Can we put it in a condition so that it's there? so I can consider it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's correct in terms of the way Mr Hunt's put the point. That's the way I understood it, because if Mr Carey is right, then I'm not sure that a condition can secure that part of it.
Okay.
But
With the road widening and stuff.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just leave that in your hands then, that point, and send something through or not. I can work with it either way. All right.
Okay, yep, understood.
Okay, good, thank you. Right, condition 16 then, residential travel plan. So that's the travel plan. Does this appear in the legal agreement, the travel plan, or anything to do with the travel plan, do we know?
I think there's targets and possible contributions if targets aren't met, is my recollection.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, this is just securing implementation of the plan that we have before us and monitoring it.
Yeah,
of it. And
that's
then
right.
It says, in the event of failing to meet the targets, a revised plan should be submitted. Okay. Right, any comments on that at all? No. So the obligation, sort of nuts and bolts, it ties it down with targets and ensures there's money in a pot.
That's right.
Yep. Okay. Condition 17, construction management plan. So yeah, that's all about ensuring that when it's being constructed, it's done in a safe way. Condition 18, this is an important one. A tree protection plan, because obviously you've got that tree that you're retaining and quite a lot of hedgerows and so on. So that's to be submitted to and approved in writing, and then development carried out in accordance with approved details. Fine. Condition 19 then, so this is hard and soft landscaping to be submitted to and approved in writing. All plant species, planting sizes, planting densities. Do we have a plan that shows that already? That detail? Because we've got that one with the 6,000 trees.
Yeah, we have got detailed landscape plans, Mark.
I know it's not 6,000.
I suppose the only thing is
joking.
if we wanted any flexibility in terms of the points that Mr. Carr was talking about yesterday in terms of sort of scrub and etc., then at least this condition would help provide that flexibility if it would
If
require.
it changed, right, okay. So you could just submit what you've got on this condition, or you could tweak it and get approval?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Is this the appropriate position to put street trees in if we're potentially removing 14?
I think it would be, yeah, okay. So I could add that as another ABCD point, yeah, okay. It's helpful, thank you. And then 20, and that's just ensuring that the hard and soft landscaping will be done within approved timescale. Okay, so sorry, just going back to 19. So this also talks about gates, walls, fences, and other means of enclosures. So we've got the enclosures plan. I mean, as a minimum, do we need to ensure that the enclosures plan is at least a starting point, because that's got some walls in it, hasn't it? You don't want that to be necessarily downgraded. So I could put something in there just to say in broad compliance with the enclosures plan. Yeah.
Yeah, very happy with that, Mum. Yeah, very happy with that.
As that's a contentious issue. So I guess I could say similar about the landscaping, again in broad compliance with what the landscape we've seen, but subject to some tweaks, but it gives you at least the starting point of where everybody knows we're at. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, 20 just ensures everything's protected and doesn't die or it's replaced. 21 then, climate change, effects of an adaptation to. What sort of thing will this involve? What are you envisaging with that?
The surface water runoff, this is already included up to 40%. Those for climate change. This is already.
Right, okay. But would that come under the surface?
Everything to do with surface water and climate change is dealt with under
Done. Yeah.
that condition and by a technical approval with Severn Trent Water.
Okay, okay.
P7, which is quite broad. So renewable energy, also water efficient. I appreciate not surface water drainage issues, but water efficiencies. But there's a lot of different points.
Do you know what it might be investing? Do you know what's required?
I'm not too sure, Mum. I did wonder whether it was more things like, sort of PV panels or electric vehicle charging points, those sort of things. But I mean, a lot of that is covered under building regs, isn't it? So.
Okay.
If I can probably, hopefully, try and shed a bit of light on this particular one. I know it has been used on occasion in the planning committee where members have wanted to ensure green credentials for the development.
Yeah.
So obviously that's been used to actually encourage, or in discussions certainly with the actual developer, to look at PV cells on the roof and the charging points. I know it's covered by building regs, but they tended to try and use that to get the information up front where it's practically possible.
Should we just have a quick look at that policy PD7? Does that
It's
shed any
page
light on it?
66 in CD51.
What was it, CD 5.1?
Point 1.
CD 5.1.
Yeah.
What page was it, 55? Did you say?
66.
67.
Big. Okay, but at least it gives us a steer.
Presumably, there's construction methods which should be more.
Is there any sort of sustainability report?
There is, Mum. Yeah. I mean, it's quite broad brushed, and I think.
Because it's that sort of thing, isn't it? It's sort
Yeah.
of saying this is how we'll construct it and this is how we'll be green.
Yeah, there is a climate change statement which is called document 1.42.
Okay.
And it does mention some of the things that are mentioned about, potential for PV panels and electric vehicle charging points, etc. But as I say, I think, and fabric first approach to building construction, those sort of matters. But I think it's covered by building regs. I think in reality.
Okay. So it sounds like what you're looking for is some sort of report that just sets out, broad compliance with this policy. But there's no sort of specific targets or anything you're looking for. Okay. Okay, 22 then. The local area for play, yeah? Not for plan. That's cute. Get children to start planning. Can train up the next generation. Right, okay. That is what it is, isn't it? Yeah, local overflow. Okay, so it has been installed and submitted and then retained thereafter. Good. Right, 23. So this is about maintenance and management of the landscaped areas. So this is separate, isn't it, that it needs to be set up separately, the legal and funding mechanism. So is this condition just asking for proof that that's been done?
Details of the management company, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that secures that this is done? Is that in the legal agreement?
I can't recall off the top of my head, Mum. Just bear with me. Yeah. I'm 99.9% certain it's in there, Mum.
Okay, we can check it when we get to that point. Okay. Okay. So 24 then, hours of operation of plant and site machinery, 8 till 6 Monday to Friday, 8 till 1 Saturday. Happy with that? Yeah. 25 samples of all materials to be used. So yeah, that's an important one to ensure we get that, I think that the materials you suggested, ensuring that the council can see them and can make changes if they see fit.
I just wonder whether, as per your suggestion on, I think, the landscape and the boundary treat, well, Mum, if you perhaps referred to the materials plan as an in principle
Okay.
document.
Yeah, because there was some discussion about render and so on, wasn't there? So again, we don't want to backtrack from that. We want to, okay. Which plan was that? Has it got a name? Is
It has, yeah. It's in condition 2.
Yeah.
And I think it's called the materials
plan, yeah, okay. But that gives you a bit of flexibility as the council then to make sure you're absolutely happy with those materials. 26, no external meter boxes shall be installed other than in accordance with details. Yeah, interesting. Is that for aesthetics? This supposed to be a quirky Derbyshire Dale condition, but I like it. Okay, for aesthetics reasons, yeah. They are quite ugly, aren't they?
My first planning manager, Mum, about 20 years ago, hated white boxes. so he always made me put conditions onto that effect as well. So,
really? I don't see them that often, but it is a valid point. And obviously, we're in a room of friends here that everybody hates me. Good. Fine. Okay. 27 then, this is removal of PD rights. So no enlargement by construction of additional stories or additions to the roof carried out without prior permission. Can you just give me the reasoning behind that one, please?
I think the reason behind this one was quite simple. It was just the fact because the aesthetics, to make sure it actually just blends into the landscape, make sure you don't get any necessarily uncontrolled large developments on there that would be out of keeping with the property itself and the development as a whole. That was the reason why that was thought appropriate in this instance.
Okay, so this is less about single-storey rear and side extensions, but specifically about roof extensions and going higher.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, because of views, I guess,
Indeed,
is that where you're
yes.
coming from? Okay. Okay, did you have any comment on that at all?
no problems with that, Mum. I sort of understand it with the topography, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's something I can have a look at on the site visit. Right, 28, foul drainage strategy.
Yes, no, so it was the appellant side that actually suggested that condition in, but that was at the time when foul drainage strategy was a bit more uncertain. Having heard what we've heard today and yesterday, I don't think that one's needed at all, but
Okay.
happy to take views on it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on submission of a foul drainage strategy? I guess, is the strategy, not to be facetious, but is it just going to say we're going to connect into the sewer?
It is now, yeah. The reason that we sort of worded it, and it's quite sort of vague, and what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to sort of commit to temporary storage facilities.
That's what it might have
That's what it
covered.
might have meant,
I see.
but we don't need that now, so I don't think we need the condition at all. I
Okay.
don't think it's doing anything.
What do you think?
This of prior to this morning's conversation.
Not knowing how it might work, but we've
Yeah.
got more confidence in that now, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then 29 then. So that is ecological enhancements based on an ecological appraisal. Yeah, okay. Any comments on that at all?
No, I mean, again, we actually added that condition in, Mark, because we didn't think the original conditions quite captured those enhancements, so,
Okay,
yeah.
so you've had the report done, some enhancements have been suggested and you'll just...
The enhancements are identified, I think, in these reports, but I think, yeah, the original condition was slightly vague about linking them to that, so, yeah, hopefully that's a bit better.
I think you're right. I think it is broader about landscape and biodiversity. It could get lost, couldn't it? Okay, happy with that? Yeah, lovely. And let me just check if there's anything else. Yeah, the only other one I've put down is only because it came up in evidence and we're going back now, but there was something about a public transport taster tickets and that it could be conditioned. Does anyone remember that? It might be in the travel plan, but if it's in the travel plan, we've conditioned the travel plan.
Yeah, I think it was, it would have ended up in the
It
travel
would be
plan.
a target if
Yeah.
that was something that was agreed there.
Yeah, because I think what Mr. Price told us in his evidence is that at the moment it's a high-level travel plan, but there are mechanisms for it to be reviewed and then targets to be set and then extra things to happen if required. And I think that was one of the extra things.
Okay, so it's
if my
specific
memory
to the site.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Because it works in a staged approach. So there'll be extra things done if certain things aren't being achieved.
Right,
So I think
see.
that's
So it's
where
an additional measure.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Are you happy with that it comes under the travel plan? And yeah, okay, lovely. Okay, great. I don't think there's any others that have come up, but obviously if anything comes up in the planning evidence, because that's kind of where things all come together. But does anybody think there's anything missing from there? Or are we happy? Yeah?
No, happy.
Good.
happy with
It's
that
a good
one.
set of conditions, and I've never said that. So, well done for all your hard work on that. Right, so it's 11 o'clock now. Is it worth us all taking a break because our housing and supply people still aren't here?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
we have a housing and
that's
supply.
Mike Hayes on behalf of the authority.
Okay, but we haven't. You're only half of the. Should we run out and get our sandwiches now?
Yeah.
And then we can take a shorter lunch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we could take about till past now, and
Yeah.
then hopefully we might have both.
Yeah,
parties.
well, I think we're going to give Mr. Denning a quick call and just see how he's getting on.
Okay.
And hopefully we can obviously update then as well when everyone's gone and grabbed a bit of food.
Okay, cool. I mean, we can grab them. I'm not saying you have to eat it now, but
No, of
we
course.
can take a shorter break. Eat your lunch.
Eating our lunch now.
Okay, all right. Let's adjourn then until past.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
because this application is for 20 units outside the castle.
Do you know why they were reconfigured?
I wasn't told in that particular questions.
And how far along are we with the conversions and the flats in?
The actual castle itself is now waterproof, and the shells of the apartments are all in. There is some work still to be done to actually fit those out to get to the point where you would say that they were completed. That particular work, I would suggest, is probably no more than a year's worth of work.
Using here is 0 for Ryder Castle on the pad side, 46 on the council's. Should we move on to the next one?
So Harlem Mill, we as a planning authority had originally included that 30 units within our calculation. Just for some context on this one, but we have conceded that in relation to the proposal for the 30 dwellings, that those won't necessarily, there's no evidence to support the delivery of those on this particular site. This is again a former mill where planning permission was granted many years ago for conversion of the mill and the erection of dwellings in the grounds. The mill has been converted, successfully operating as a wedding venue and a venue for small businesses. So in effect, the 30 units could be commenced within a day's notice, but given our sort of evidence and intelligence in regards to the landowner's intention, he hasn't come forward with anything that would suggest that there is anything that he would support us, which we would support to say we could justify saying those are deliverable within the next 5 years. So we're conceding that.
Fair enough. Okay, so that's 0 on both sides. Okay.
Sorry, Martin, sorry to interject, but just going back to Ryder Castle for a moment, I understand that there isn't any actual evidence available about the stage of construction of the apartments in the castle from the council. Obviously, it's been going on for 14 years now. I don't think there's any evidence to support well, it'll only take another year. And I'm just flagging that as a potential issue. Obviously, that's Mr. Hayes' opinion, but I don't think we've got anything before us that helps us with that. Is that correct?
In terms of the comments made, yes, it was my opinion. But in terms of the evidence, we do an annual monitoring check of all of the sites across the district. My staff has visited the site on numerous years, and she's recorded in our database that in 2019 the flats were under construction, as were some of the houses in the grounds in 2014, and those were recorded within our authority monitoring report in those years, which I know that the appellants have had size of over the course of the past few months.
Okay. Can I see, is that before the inquiry? Is that before the inquiry evidence?
No, ma'am, but the monitoring reports were made available to the appellants in the lead up to the examination, in the lead up to the inquiry. They based their evidence on the authority monitoring reports, which, if need be, we can provide those to you.
Just to clarify, the ALRs are all core documents,
Okay.
so I think it goes back to the start of the plan here, which I think there's 6 years in
The
ALRs.
monitoring report saying 5 years. Have you got reference?
6.1 to 6.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Are you able to directly explicitly to the Ryman Castle monitoring within those documents?
Immediately to hand.
No, but could you provide it?
As an extra.
Started.
Just help on that. I don't think it had any specific commentary on issues, does it, the AMR? Within the AMR, I don't think sort of specific commentary on those points.
But what we will have recorded in associated documentation is the status of the site at that particular year, and we'll be able to identify one of the columns against that particular application where it would either say NS not started or UC under construction. And I would be able to go back to those and be able to say that at that particular point. I think Mr. Denning's already accepted that they were beginning to be constructed into, or converted in 2009.
I think the evidence we looked at was taken from the committee report for the revised application from the went to committee in October 2023. There's some reference there to work that has been started but not completed.
So do you accept that the flats in the castle started?
Work has started, but as we've stated, 2009.
Just to be clear now, I think what, and again, I hate to take out the term, but I think what Mr. Hayes is telling us is that the detail that perhaps he's referring to isn't in the inquiry documents. It's some sort of form that sits underneath to us.
I reference back on to the actual documentations over the past number of years and now AMRs, which I haven't got immediately to hand. I can't say that, but certainly I know from when we presented AMRs in the last few years, we do include a schedule of all the sites which make up our commitments. So Mr. Denning nodding, make up our commitments and that we have included within our assumptions, so that we have provided in a very transparent way how we arrive at our calculations.
Obviously, there's a lot of when I'm asked about specific points about whether apartments have started in Ryman Castle, it would be really helpful to have to hand the evidence if you could signpost me there.
I can do that, no problem.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mum, again, sorry. But is it possible to just make clear that that isn't an invitation to put in additional evidence that hasn't been in before the inquiry before now? I can just see a situation here where we might end up with a load of stuff that we've never seen before.
Well, I've just asked for a signpost to where it is.
Yeah, in the inquiry documents.
Yeah. It just saves time for me then getting home, looking through core documents later, realising I can't find what I have a scribbled note that you said was on there.
I understand the point that it's been made by the opposition.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mostly for me. This is the funny thing about inquiries, everybody knows what they're talking about. You don't realise they're coming in.
Oh, I completely
be there.
Yeah.
You know, in front of me. Know what I'm determining it on. I'm not really looking at things, else that would be unfair. Okay, can we move on to the next slide? So we grant Harlem Mill work, so I think you're saying there's nothing between you on this.
That's right. And then the same with the next site, which is Harley Quarry. We'll see them on that particular site.
Okay.
The next site that we are in dispute with the appellants are is a site at Quarry Lane in Matlock. This is a site where reserve matters application to effectively complete the sequence and was granted in June of 2020, submitted in June 2023 and then granted in January 2024. It is a site which sits on the outskirts of Matlock. Developer is now, there's some announcements earlier this year about their intention to start, and site inspection yesterday suggested that they have made some commencements on site. That those 75 units will be included, should be included.
Yeah, I think our contention with this site is that at the time of the AMR, as we've just discussed, is the document where a lot of the information that we're talking about is taken from, and that the site had the benefit of an outline consent, but there was no sort of the site's deliverability. So the reserve matters application was received post the base date of that AMR, and the decision to grant consent. History of previous applications on this site that haven't progressed, so we do question the deliverability of this site as per the base date of the AMR.
So I think there's a difference in principle because this could be to category A. It has to be treated fictionally as if it was still a category B site. I don't know whether
The outline planning permission was granted on the 17th March 2023, so that was a sort of a permission that was in existence at the base date, the 1st of April. So we have taken assumptions that potentially the development of that site would come forward towards the middle and end of the 5-year supply cycle, 5 years. On the basis that the applicant has at a particular time a fairly good track record of bringing sites forward. They've worked with authority areas for a number of years and have brought sites forward very quickly. So we were confident to maintain the outline application within our calculations. And clearly, obviously, since that time, the reserve matters application has been approved. The developer is now on site, so that, in our view, vindicates our position.
Just going back to you, Mr. Denning. You say you weren't aware there was a reserve matters application.
We're aware of that the reserve matters application has been received, or had been received, and in fact have been granted. I think our position was that at the date of the AMR, the circumstances that Mr. Hayes has just described, that there was a house builder involved who's got a track record of delivery. That information was known at the date of the AMR, the base date, and it should have been included with it, because that would have been a signal of deliverability. As it was just an outline consent on a site that has failed to deliver until now. This site, yeah.
Okay, so it's pending to be approved?
Base date of the AMR, the 1st of April 2023. The site had outline consent. Justification provided within the annual monitoring report that that site would be delivered as predicted in the 5-year housing land supply by the local authority.
Saying to me that when we're looking at housing lands at the last annual monitoring report.
I would normally expect to see justification of why a site with outline planning consent has been included in the 5-year housing land supply, and that justification would normally be presented in an annual monitoring report to justify its inclusion.
But if it came after
if the information has arrived after, then that does displace deliverability now. With subsequent evidence is that sites fall out of the five-year housing master plan. So every year we do have completions. It's an ongoing cycle.
So where does this issue come into the question of deliverability? Where directly to that's something I should be considering?
I think our issue with the deliverability of this site is the fact that it was included at the base date with no.
Yeah, that's not really my question. So where do I go to find something? So I'm looking at the definition of deliverable in the framework. Is there something else that tells me when I'm looking at whether something shall be granted to these dates?
I don't have my hand on that, but
simple point is that in effect you're sort of forever chasing your tail. If you start adding new ones in, and then, you know,
Sorry,
it
when
gets
I'm doing
too
a round
messy.
table, it's quite difficult when I've got a thought in my head.
Oh.
People keep chipping in because I know you're responding to each other and going, oh, well, you said that, I said that. But when you're trying to follow it in your own head, because I'm completely on my own doing this, don't have a team helping me. It's just quite hard when I'm holding on to a thought, making a note, and someone else jumps in.
Sorry,
You
I
see what mean?
couldn't see you were writing. I can't see the pen.
Sometimes I'm just blankly staring. But okay, so where we end then on land off Quarry Lane is essentially as of today we have an outline and a reserve matters application granted. I hear your point about base dates and I've heard your answers to my questions on that. Is there anything else to add?
Well, could I add that can I take you to the proofs, because it's actually dealt with in Mr. Roberts with Mr. Denning.
What are you taking me to?
So page 4.
No, can you tell me what you're taking me to?
So there's what you've just heard is a conflation of two issues, but it's dealt with in appeal. I'm going to take you to the excerpts from appeal decision which come through with this issue.
What issue? The question I asked? Or?
Yeah, the question that you asked.
I don't want to be taken off on a very jaunt somewhere.
No, Mark, I understand your question is, where is there anything that tells me about the significance of this being coming up to the base date makes a difference?
So you'll go back and answering that question?
I was going to try and help you with that if you come on.
Okay, well, you need to signpost me to that, because the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to be drawn in the ebb and flow of everybody's separate ideas. You know, I'm trying to do this when this is a round table. I've sat listening to you guys for a long, long time. I often find, if you can stop cutting across me, please, that it's very difficult when I'm trying to run an inquiry, follow things that are important to me in this decision, which ultimately is the most important thing here. And everybody has their own agendas, and I just find that very difficult because politeness will tell me, okay, let's see where this goes, and then 15, 20 minutes later you're thinking that wasn't where I wanted to go. So if you can be clear, you know, if I ask a question, be clear then that you're that question or going off on what you think I want to know.
It's precisely obvious on the question about the relevance of the base date.
I've just heard from the appellant, and you know, I've got my answer, so I'm just querying where I need to go from that any further.
Well, I don't think the appellant concedes the point, and I perhaps don't need to take it to it, but I think Mr. Denning said there's nothing in the definition of deliverability or that he could point you to. Said, no, it's a matter of sites come in and out of supply and you're constantly chasing your tail, basically. And that was my. So I agree with Mr. Denning, I disagree with Ms. Oakley, and I was going to explain and try and answer your question.
This is more between you two.
You deal with it in submissions.
I think that might be easier because
So
I've said, I asked the question, where do I get a steer in policy to consider this? I was told, you can't direct me to that at the moment. I'm satisfied on that.
I was just going to point to, well, can I just say succinctly in 1 sentence what I was going to point you to? There are 2 appeal decisions in particular. I think there are more. I was involved in one and this point came up. It was determined in both cases. It's about, do you consider the latest available evidence of the sites and the supply? And that's a different question from, can you chop and change the sites and the supply? This is a, can we consider the most up-to-date evidence of deliverability on the site? Both appeal decisions say, yes, you can. And it's conceded, I think, in their evidence. That's all I wanted to draw your attention to. It's 3.58 of Mr. Roberts through Mr. Denning's proof, and it's in Mr. I just thought whether the evidence, so you should consider the latest available evidence of deliverability. You shouldn't. What you shouldn't do is take us.
I feel like you're trying to guide me here.
I'm really not, and I'll be quiet if I'm being of no assistance. But it seems that I thought I was directly answering the question that you hadn't had answered.
I don't understand why you're answering Mr. Denning's question.
I'm not answering your question, Mark. You asked Mr. Denning what's the relevance of the base state. With respect, Mum, I'm trying to help you with that. If it's not helping, I will be quiet and leave it for submissions. I think this is precisely about the relevance of the base state.
Information day after day, and I'm supposed to be like
No, I understand.
I understand this paragraph.
Mum, it's fine.
You'll say, oh, it's in this paragraph, it's in that paragraph. So if you could follow my steer, that would help. You are how many heads versus one?
Well, would you like me to take you to those passages and explain?
So I don't understand why they're passages as opposed to field decisions, and I've just got to
Well, they are
the point where I can't concentrate anymore, to be honest.
Okay, well, as I say, if it would help, I'll do it, but if it won't help, I'll just do it.
So is it your field decision?
There are extracts, there are quotations from 2 appeal decisions. One in this.
Do we have the actual field decision?
We have the one of them in the appeal decisions. The other one, I think you just have the extract from. They both deal with the question as to whether post-base state evidence should be looked at.
So where's the appeal decision?
The appeal decision.
If we'll, that one.
That is in.
C8.2.
Thank you.
I shall have a look at that. So are you basically coming in on the council side saying you should consider the most up-to-date stuff?
Yeah.
That was what you're trying to
The
say.
principle is if the evidence changes, you consider the up-to-date evidence on deliverability. So if the status which I site changes from site without land planning permission to site with full planning permission to reserve matters approval, it's the latter that you should consider.
Sorry, I'm having trouble concentrating. How many more sites have we got to go through?
I think it's two more sites that we're in dispute over. And if it can help, we're happy to break for a little while and then come back to it so you can have clear your thoughts.
So Quarry Lane, land of Quarry Lane is, what's in argument is 75 on your side, 0 on your side.
Correct.
And then we're left at land at Alldale Quarry.
Where we've conceded that point.
Right, okay. Land at Marston Lane, that one's in dispute.
That's one's under dispute, yes.
And land north of town, that's in dispute.
Yeah, those are the last 2.
Okay, alright, let's try and get through them then. So land at Marston Lane then.
Austin Lane is a site that was allocated in the local plan adopted in 2017. There have been a number of planning applications submitted, discussions about how to secure the development in an appropriate way on this particular site. An application.
Was this an allocated site, did you say? Was it an allocated site?
Yes, one was allocated site for 18 units in the adopted local plan. The site received the application, the authority received an application in August 2022, 11th of August 2022, for 18 units. That was granted planning permission on the 13th of September 23. It has the benefits of planning permission. Now, the approach that we've taken in relation to this particular site is that at the 1st of April, whilst the site had not yet had the benefits of planning permission, we were comfortable, given the history of the planning applications that had gone before and the discussions that I had with the development management team, that the planning permission would be likely to come forward. So the assumption was made within our calculations that there would be a delivery within 5 years of 18 units on that site. And we were considering those again towards the back end of the 5 years, the latter 2 years, the 5 years in the calculation. Since that particular time, the developer has begun to market the site. In the rebuttal statements I presented, there is the evidence of the link to the developer's website that suggests that they are confident that they will be bringing the site forward in the near future. The difference between ourselves and the appellant is essentially 14 units, and that 14 units is a reduction from the 18 to reflect the layout that the developer is now advertising the site for.
What, from 18 to 14, sorry?
The reason being is that to reflect the difference in the approach that the developer has taken on the site.
You got planning permission for 18. What happened? Are they only building 14?
It's going to take me a little while just to run through the planning applications and variations of planning applications on that site.
You know, Mr. Denning.
I don't, to be honest, Mum, I couldn't trace the reduction from 18 to 14. It helps. I mean, I think most of our contention with this site is similar to the previous site. Based the AMR, this was an allocated site without the benefit. So it required justification of its deliverability. The approval of the application, again, has happened subsequently to the base date.
Was approved in 2022?
September 23.
Oh yeah, 13th of September 2023, okay. Okay, query again, essentially. The only problem with web links is I can't click on the web link. security well ongoing for what we've seen. So it's hard to rely on evidence just for the future. No. Okay, can we move on to Landlord and Tansley then? What we do know on Master Lanes, we've got permission for 18 units, yeah. Got permission for 18 units, but for some reason we're calling it 14.
Yeah. The developer has market or is marketing the site on the basis of 14 units.
Right, so it's being marketed as 14. But he hasn't buried the permission.
I would need to look in a little bit more detail on whether or not there's any variation on that by way of what he submitted. I'll take a little while just to work through that.
Both agree it's 14. Okay, Landlord of Tansy. 8 million.
With a slight variation in that a planning application for this site for 49 dwellings was granted consent in October 2019. It lapsed in October 2022. Because that site was still included in the housing land supply. A subsequent application was then submitted and granted post the base period in July 2023. I think it was reduced to 47 dwellings. So the scheme. Committee report for that new application, it did state that it should be noted there is no longer any standard planning permission as it lapsed in September 2022. So at the date of the base date, this site was included without planning consent.
Just to clarify, buyer's application submitted for the 47 units was submitted on the 24th of October 2022. Take it that it was considered after the 1st of April. It was considered and was submitted to us and received by us before the 1st of April.
Yeah.
Was approved on the 3rd of July 2023. But the developer has began to construct on site. What I've submitted, there are photographs that have been submitted to me from Wednesday from the developer Stanford Homes that show that I can show that at least 6 houses are fully up to roof construction stage with the roof construction on, windows in.
Can I just clarify that it was reported to committee after the 1st of April 2022?
The application was received before that. It was received on the 24th of October. You sort of inferred that it came in after the 1st of October. Just to clarify that.
Can I just clarify that the application was reported to committee after the 1st of April?
I don't disagree with you on that.
Should I be following this?
Just seeking to clarify when the application was reported to committee. Yes, it was after the 1st of April 2023. Mr. Hayes has just confirmed.
Back to just the point about photos. This one's got full planning, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you have photos that works have started on site.
photographs from the site, from a site visit that was taken on Wednesday, yesterday.
But those aren't the full inquiry.
No, ma'am.
How many houses is it?
47 houses in total.
Is that classed as major development?
Sorry, ma'am.
Classed as major development or not?
This one.
Yeah. So I need clear evidence they will be delivered, but I don't have those photos before me. Right. So that's the size. That's the reasons why we're in dispute. This issue about base date. It's fearless, the one that you were referring to, dated from 2016. Is there any way you can direct me, which was my question in planning policy, that would count this base date? Or is it just an argument that I need to consider?
I think it's an argument you need to consider on the fact that the annual housing, the housing land supply is updated annually. So
it's updated annually on the 1st of April, is that what you're saying? In this case?
in this case, yeah.
Yeah. So Derbyshire and Dales update their housing land supply annually on the 1st of April of the year. So the last one that we have is 2023.
Yes, yeah, that's over 2023.
Are we waiting on 2024?
Yes, ma'am. The data is being collected as we speak.
So that's where you go and do your annual.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, what you were putting to me, Mr. Denning, is that anything that's happened after the 1st of April 2023, until we get that updated report, I can't take anything else into account. Any actions since then or changes?
That would be my
Yeah. Okay. Just
It's not going to be available
so,
for the future.
okay. Not that I'm endorsing you. So, not that I'm suggesting things, so alright, thank you. Okay, I think that's clear. I know what I need to pretend. So then my last question is, so these are the disputes, yeah? Where does that leave us on how demand supply figures? Is there anything that needs tweaking on either side? Because there are a couple of little things, such as windfall, and there are a couple of where I think you were saying it should be 46, but did you need to go away and just have a look at those again?
Yes, ma'am. Because I from our side, we still consider in terms of the components where we dispute on windfall, we still consider 30 to be an appropriate number as compared to 20.
Yeah.
In terms of the commitments, we've been through the sites where there are lapse permissions, and we've conceded the lapse permissions. We're at dispute in relation to the sites where they've been extant and started for a number of years. And then there are 4 sites, I think it's 4 sites that we've just gone through in relation to this. But we consider that on Ryder Castle it should be 46 rather than 20,
So
which is a variation from my report.
yeah, so do you need to recalculate?
I can do that, ma'am.
Yeah.
I can provide that after break if you wish.
And do you need to recalculate yours on most of the windfall? Because I think you considered 10 and 0. I know it's probably not to make 20, 10 grand.
20 units need to be added, which would take our position on the 5 years and uncertified from just below 3 years.
Okay, I know the cost of seems petty, but I'd just like to know exactly where we stand with the figures after that discussion. So we. All right, thank you. Okay, that's housing uncertified done then. Shall we have our lunch break now for half an hour, and then we'll come back and keep on planning? Okay, we'll come back at should we just call it 1:30? Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Okay, thank you.